So we had the Minnesota Timberwolves who are fighting to be in that 8th spot in the Western Conference as well. Yeah, that would be much better than being in the 9th and having to win 2 games, right? You would have to win just one, even though it would be on the road. But they played the Spurs tonight, right? Well, they played the Spurs yesterday. Yes, tonight. I don't know what the hell am I saying, but yeah, they were great, I suppose, even though the Spurs did hang a lot of points on them. But with the Spurs, of course, it's kind of hard to take the team seriously enough, even though, of course, for the Timberwolves, it's a must win. Here's a beautiful buzzer beater by Kyle Anderson, the best player of all time, probably, to be quite frank with you. But they blew them out in this third quarter and looked really good in this third quarter, which was all that mattered. And they, of course, could rest their guys a little bit in that fourth quarter as they play the back-to-back against the Pelicans tonight, which, of course, is exactly for that 8th spot. As if the Minnesota Timberwolves win, they will be 8th. If the Pelicans win, they don't have to be 8th necessarily, but of course they would eliminate the chance of Minnesota being 8th. You get me, right? Minnesota has to win to be in the 8th spot, which would mean having to win just one playing game instead of 2. But nonetheless, when we look at the matchups that happened before, I was of course going through it because since this is probably the most important match of it all, because these two play each other exactly for that spot essentially. So I was looking through the matchup that they played earlier, as they played two games against each other already this year, and it was quite, it tells you really nothing, because it was early in the year, and the Timberwolves were still with D'Angelo Russell, right? They still didn't have Mike Conley, so it's kind of useless, and there was no Karl-Anthony Towns anyway, while for the Pelicans there was no Zion in the first one. Brandon Ingram played and struggled, which is something that we can actually not sure if move, but go with as an actual analysis. And then we had the second matchup where Zion was dominant, had 43 points and dunked on Rudy Gobert, I'm pretty sure, and he was absolutely sensational in that game, but he, of course, won't play today. So both these matchups seem kind of irrelevant when we look at the matchup that is going tonight. And when you look at these two teams against each other, I think the Timberwolves have the perfect guy to defend Brandon Ingram in Jaden McDaniels, right? So that's going to be an interesting matchup for sure, since Brandon Ingram has been playing probably the best basketball of his career throughout this stretch that the Pelicans have been on in these last 15 games or so, pretty much after the All-Star break. While the Timberwolves have had their ups and downs, but they have their full squad. I'm not sure if Karl-Anthony Towns will actually play, but I would guess so. Even though, will he be cleared? I'm not sure, but I've not read anything about that. So I'll be in for a surprise, I suppose. I guess I should probably look if there were any news about that. But let's talk about the other matchups. Trey Murphy and Herbert Jones have been playing, especially well, and yeah, it's really intriguing, and they of course struggled in those earlier matchups, but they don't have enough wings to defend in the end. And Kyle Anderson, although he is a good defender, should be outmatched athleticity wise, but we know he always finds a way to be a guy that just bothers people. But those wings matchups are going to be the most important things. Okay, so Karl-Anthony Towns is questionable for tonight, so we'll have to wait and see for that. Yeah, I'm kind of spiraling a little bit here, but let's focus here. Let's focus here. The Pelicans and the Timberwolves. So, I would pick the Pels, especially because they did not play tonight. They have been playing the better basketball as of late, and are not on a back-to-back, right? They don't have to, even though they are traveling to Minnesota, they are still not on a back-to-back. While Minnesota played in San Antonio, they have to travel back home. So that's an advantage for the Pelicans. I like how Brandon Ingram has been playing, and even though he's going to be against one of the best defenders in the NBA, I believe he'll rise above it with the way he's been playing. And I just like the Pelicans more in this matchup. I like I think Mike Conley against CJ is pretty much a wash. And then it's all about the other guys, where you have Trey Murphy, who has been special and probably should be the second option of this team, if we're being quite honest with ourselves, against an Edwards, who probably will be defended by Herb Jones, I would assume. So that's going to be an intriguing matchup. And then we also have Valanciunas against Gobert, which is somewhat, I think, advantage for the Pelicans, since Valanciunas can, actually stretch the floor a bit. So that probably is going to be, not sure if, complete wash, of course it's not, but a slight advantage for the Pels in terms of matchups, I would say. But I would also say that the benches are both very rough, but the Timberwolves have slight edge in there. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure even what I'm getting at here, but I just kind of analyzed it without really looking at numbers or anything. I just kind of went with what I think about these teams, what I like, and we'll see. But I expect the Pelicans to win tonight, no matter what. But shout out to the Timberwolves for handling their business. Didn't even have to play the fourth quarter, the starters, which is great since you are on a back-to-back, and just, giving yourselves a chance to be the 8th seed is always great. While the Spurs, shout out to Trey Jones, shout out to Blake Wesley, shout out to Malachi Branham, the young fellas, and yes, shout out Sandro Mamukelashvili. I really like how he's been playing. I want him in Golden State next year.